Hi, and welcome to Torchcast, Conversations for a Common Future. This interview is with Seth Allen, a rancher in Northern Idaho who raises his animals on the vegetation that grows naturally there. He doesn't use any pesticides, herbicides, or antibiotics. Looking back on this conversation, I feel a sense of gratitude to Seth and others like him who have stepped forward to care for the land in this way. This episode does include video, both of the interview and some clips of us walking around the ranch, so look for the YouTube link if you'd like to watch. Also, I will include some links in the description to some of the things that we talk about. We're going to start the interview now. I hope you enjoy getting to hear from Seth and having a peek at his ranch. I sure enjoyed talking to him and hope to come back at some point for an update. So, beautiful morning here. Beautiful morning up here in Hell's Canyon with Seth Allen.
Yep.
And I don't know if I told you the story like leading up to me coming up to your farm. It was about 2 weeks ago, and what's funny to me is I'd just been staying at my friend Connor's place. Who he's the friend that I told you, like he'd been running raw milk when he was younger.
Okay, all right.
And so we were just talking about like raw milk farmers.
Crazy.
We were just talking about this, and I had got this idea in my head because Connor has started to work with contractors. He's just built a calculator for. What is it? I think it's maybe for roofing or something.
Oh, wow.
He's got some background in technology, but he's also got background in construction and kind of he's like well, I want to build tools that will help these people out. It's an underserved market.
Right.
So anyway, the whole conversation with him just got me inspired, and I said, well, I want to meet some farmers, and I want to meet some green tech people here in Idaho. And that was when, coming down south from that visit, I turned off on this road, and just randomly I see your sign that says raw milk, and it just looked friendly, so I was like, I got to check it out.
Yeah. I'm glad you did. So, and we have, which we didn't talk about this the other day, but we have dropped our raw milk permit. So the state of Idaho, and there's other states this way, they have the 3 cow permit for raw milk, and then you're tested and all that. And we did that, and we actually had 4 cows, but 3 were in milk at any time, so we always had somewhat of a rotation. And we were totally grass-fed, no grain inputs at all. Actually, 0 inputs. Redmond salt and kelp mixed together. That was our inputs that my wife Rainey did. And we even went to 1-a-day milkings. We would leave the calves on during the day, pull them off at night, and then she would do a 1-a-day milking setup. And it just is a lot of work, and it became obvious to us that it was at 3 cows. It was totally not scalable by any means, and even to get into a grade A permit with the state of Idaho, you end up having to have a government approved lagoon and a government approved milking parlor, which is all half subsidized on top of it too, and it just turns into for us, a bureaucratic process. We like our freedom, and the whole 3 cow permit, having that for all those years, we learned that there's too much government involved in it. Let me just put it that way, simply. And we played by the book. We did everything we were supposed to, and it just didn't fit our personalities. And like I said, it was becoming evident that it was not profitable like it should be. The price per gallon would be so exorbitant that it was unpractical for most people. What
were you charging?
At that time, we were $6.50 $1.50 a half gallon
Okay.
for whole milk.
Yeah, and I've heard Connor say like gallons of milk selling for as much as $10. Like, and this might have been 10, 15 years ago, but he like they were finding enough of a market for it because
Correct.
they had people with different might have a neural condition or something where like the raw milk was actually making a significant difference for them.
It's definitely therapeutic, and a lot of our customers were therapeutic type customers. They were drinking it, and I'm going to say 90% for health benefits, health improvement.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, a gallon of milk that we produced and a gallon of milk you bought at the store was apples and rocks. It wasn't even close. But I think because of where we are today with our food in this country and what we perceive value in our food source as, there's so much education. Let me put it this way. The customers that we had, when we said we have to make some changes and drop our permit, most of our customers begged us not to.
Yeah.
We'll pay more. We can pay a little bit more. What can we do to help you? And we really appreciated that.
Yeah.
The problem was it just was not fitting what we needed. And so we still have a cow here for our family and friends like that. But there's so many loopholes around it that if you play by the book for the state of Idaho, you can still legally sell raw milk as packaged as for pets.
Okay.
Okay, and see, you're tested once a month for your total bacteria count and your E. coli count, and the standard is much higher for raw milk, obviously, than it would be for the rest of your pasteurized dairies. So it's that part frustrated me because I thought we should all be held to the same standard, whether you're raw milk or not. But and it's not an even playing field. And I realize that. Don't get me wrong. There's things can happen with raw milk, but you can't insure yourself against everything. And if you're building an immune system, which is what a lot of people were doing with raw milk, they were actually increasing the bacteria count, good bacteria count in their gut, which is what was helping people for the most part. And that's what we're talking about, this good versus bad. The bad doesn't matter if you have enough good in your immune system and your bacterial counts, what we figured out. And I actually feed the skim to my dogs, and it's huge, the benefits for even for animals. So you can see it in your animals, and you know what's happening in you and other humans. And we had people that just we had one older gentleman that he swore by it because it was lubrication for his joints. He
like
felt
his joints felt better.
Knees, ankles, shoulders. He said my movement in my shoulders is so much better when I have raw milk than when I don't have it. He said just a week to 10 days, I go from feeling good to just tanking off. And he says I just get stiff. And he's early 70s, mid 70s, and he swears by it. He swears by it for that one thing, and he doesn't care if it's grain fed or just grass fed or whatever. Of course, that was our thing, was we were strictly grass fed. We fed no grain at all.
So what got you down that path in the first place? You said I want to start a farm and I'm going to do it this way. Was that an evolution over time?
Yeah.
Did you already have that concept before you started farming?
Really not. We ate. When I got married to Rainey, my diet was absolutely horrendous. And as we started to have children, Rainey was always very intuitive to healthy products. And so as we aged and had kids of our own, we just started to learn more. And it was just like a walk in a staircase, one step at a time. We just continued to climb the staircase. And the more we knew, the more we realized that we didn't know, the better we needed to eat. And started to understand this whole great big world of your health and how it relates to the food we eat. And so that's basically how it started with us. Rainey had some health issues. That's how we got into the raw milk. That totally helped her.
Okay.
That's totally what started it with her. With the kids, our kids would not be sick when other kids at school were. Or our kids would be sick for a day or 2 days, and the kids would be sick for a week to 10 days. So we started to realize little things like this, and we started to improve it. I started to eat healthier because I always wanted to be able to work harder, faster, more. I wanted to have more energy. I wanted to feel better, and so that's why.
So you got to take good care of your body in order to do that.
Correct. And so that's as we started to learn your omega-3/6 malice and where that comes from in your protein meats, with your chicken and your pork and your sheep and your beef, and what happens to an omnivore's digestive system when we start feeding it grain. I'm sorry, an herbivore's digestive system when we start feeding it grain.
Yeah.
Okay. And what happens is how the acidity level rises in the rumen of cattle. How the balance of the 6 and 3s go out of whack, and that's what becomes unhealthy. And there's all these things. Basically, Rainey started studying Sally Fallon Morrell, which was Weston Price, the Weston Price Foundation.
I may have seen. My sister watches some videos. She might have sent that to me, but I don't.
You might. He wrote a book, and Sally updated it on gut health. Basically, Sally's and so there was all these things that fermented foods was another one, okay, and that's basically what Sally Fallon comes back to a lot of is fermenting it, even for nutritional benefits. She
like the bone broth as well?
Yes,
is that
absolutely.
Yeah. And so I've heard that sort of diet.
Yep. And so just studying that kind of stuff led one thing to another, and we've just kind of grown with it and learned things that worked for us personally, tried to help other people with things that worked, and so that's what got us into the whole thing was we wanted something and we couldn't get it. We were getting grain-fed, and the grain-fed just didn't taste right. I was raised on deer, and my kids were raised on wild game, and nobody grain feeds them. So when you think about it, and
I definitely notice, like when I get a hamburger now in town, like I usually regret it.
Yes.
I'm like, this doesn't taste that good.
I agree.
This doesn't taste that good, and no other reason. It's like, the other reason is my body doesn't feel that good.
Right.
Right. Like I just ate this hamburger. I knew I wasn't gonna feel that good afterwards, and sure enough, I don't.
Yep. You're never supposed to eat anything that. Don't ever eat anything that takes more energy out of you than it puts in. And that's what happens. My folks when my kids were little, my folks were big go out to eat. That was the thing. Get together and go out to the restaurant, go out to the diner, go out to the cafe. And I just got to the point where I would go along for the camaraderie, if you will, but then I would just feel like junk the rest of the day. Even the next morning, get up the next morning and just be sluggish and tired and couldn't figure out why. Well, you start working backwards. Well, I was fine before, and then we ate dinner or we ate lunch. What did I eat? I ate, processed, overworked, dead food. I have no energy. It took more out of me.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing you're talking about. And that's what we found. That's what Rainey and I found.
Well, and when I eat meat, I want to cook it like just enough. I like beef like medium rare.
Right.
Right. And yeah, I think if the meat is like low quality, or it's been if it's been sitting around for too long and you have to cook it so it's well done, it's like you're not eating the same thing.
No.
And I don't know, like they do studies, right, and they'll compare like omnivore, herbivore, meat eaters, whatever. But are they getting into the nuance of what's the quality of the food, right? Like where did it come from? How was it raised? There's a lot that we don't know, right?
Yep.
There's a lot that we really haven't studied through, and I think people like yourself, right? you might not be measuring, molecular levels of different things in the meat, right?
No.
But you're like, well, I ate this and I felt this way, and I ate this and I felt this way. So, like the scientific precision has yet to catch up with the wisdom and just being in tune with how your own body feels.
Correct. Yep. The old adage is the proof of the pudding's in the eating.
Yeah.
If we could just apply that to what we do, and I mean, look at what's available. Is micronutrient dense food available? No, you're right. I do not at the molecular level. And that's not me at all. I'm not that. My wife is. I'm not. That's too much detail for me.
But the thing is, like, human beings have been surviving for, well, if our current estimates, 300,000 years, right? Like, did we have like scientific instruments of measurement to figure out what to eat for the last 300,000 years? We've got a lot that's built into us, into our own evolution, that we need to trust this biological, this body that we've been given.
Correct. Yeah, we should eat like cows, and I mean, in the sense that if you dump in the spring of the year, if you dump let's just say 30 mother cows out into that pasture in the spring of the year about May, there's all kinds of stuff out there because we don't spray for anything. There's grass, there's forbs, there's herbs, there's good, bad, and ugly. You can watch 30 different mother cows eat 30 different things, all in the same morning. Okay? Some of them will eat the same, but they'll eat differently, and the way they eat it is differently.
Mm.
They're listening to themselves. So I believe that we were created to be able to have that intuition, that instinct to eat what we need, whatever that is. Fasting is another one that should be more instinctive. Okay,
yeah.
So we're talking about actually intake. How about taking away the intake for a specific reason? That's what I think, and we don't do that anymore because we've become so. The microwave, the Betty Crocker, the instant, right? And they are doing some studies now about what happens when the whole process of cooking a meal from start to finish and how that aids in digestion overall in your body, because you're cooking, you're smelling, your senses you're seeing, okay, and you're starting to salivate, and that starts the digestion process before you even eat. And there is some small studies out there. Now, none of this is going to be done by the USDA, the FDA, or any of that. And I know that's a whole nother realm out there. But what's convenient for us today is to go to town and get a microwave burrito and a Pepsi-Cola. Right? Look how easy that is. Seriously, look how easy and convenient that is.
But I'm looking at, like, how far away is that from like what is natural? from like something that would grow in nature.
Correct.
It's not in the same galaxy.
That's correct. You're right. No, you're right. Let's take that burrito and throw it out here on the ground, and we've got ants and dung beetles and carrion beetles and all kinds of stuff. And let's see if the worms and the beetles will eat it. If the worms and the beetles won't touch it, why in the hell should we touch it? That's my thing. And that, look at our processed foods. It's so refined. That's what kills us. We don't have the al dente. I had a Sicilian guy that I knew for a while, and he said you should cook your pasta al dente, and he had an accent. Like, I don't know what that means, Nuncio. That was his name, Nuncio, and he says you should cook it to where you have to chew it, not to where it's mush. If you cook pasta to where it's mush, it is bad for your gut. I'm like, how come well, I think at the time I was 35 years old. I've never heard this before. Why am I not hearing that? He said, if you cook it to mush, it just becomes mush in your body. Cook it, it shouldn't break your teeth. It shouldn't be hard like dry pasta, but he says you should have to chew it. You should have to masticate it, is what he was saying. I'm like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. Well, if you're chewing your food, it's not over-processed, it's not overcooked, it's not like you said, cooked to death. Killed twice is the old statement, killed twice. So anyway, that's I think that is some sage advice from again another, at that time he was in his early 70s when I knew him. But nobody talks about that kind of stuff. I never heard my mom say that, or my grandmother. Don't cook your pastas don't overcook them too much. But you and I know that with our steak, because you like yours medium rare and I like mine medium rare. I want to, I want to see some life in it.
Yeah. Well, and that's really the thing, is like at a cellular level, right? Those cells are either alive or dead, and just like in our bodies, it's not just human cells. There's bacteria. There's other types of things in there, and I don't think it can be said that all that stuff's bad, right? You know, I know that at a certain level, if you get too much E. coli, right, like that's meat goes bad, right? We know that, but if it's fresh, again, I just go back to, like, we were evolved to eat meat. We were evolved to eat vegetables.
Right.
You know, and to get that as close to the natural form, like, to me seems wise, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Every time we deviate from that, every time we take and say, well, we want to, introduce some more pre-processing
Right.
into our food.
Right.
We're gonna take it through a factory process, and we're gonna, chemically treat it or heat
Right.
treat it, or we're gonna do these different things. I would just say there's a risk there, right? When we're deviating from the natural
Mm-hmm.
process,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes there's benefit from it, and sometimes not.
There's balance to everything we do, and where we're at today, my kids grew up to where we would hunt, which a lot of people still do even today. So they would see the process where we would hunt our game, we would bring it home, we'd field dress it, bring it home, hang it up, skin it, and then actually butcher it ourselves. Well, that's not always the way life works right now for us today. 200 years ago, yeah, absolutely. That was how you ate meat.
There's not a lot of people that I know who have even seen an animal skinned,
Right.
much less done it
That's
themselves.
True. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And that's just part of where we're at today. And that's a fact. Whether that's good or bad, I don't think matters. I think it's a fact that that's where we're at. I think there's just different life stages for different people and where they're at. Some people don't really care to see that, and that's fine. But my point in all that was that I think we need to be more aware of where our food comes from, like you were saying, and get away from the fact. Now, look, here's the thing: can't get away from all the factory processing. Just like our beef that we produce, or our pork, is still, we use modern technology to process that beef, or our butcher does, I should say.
Sure.
Okay, because that is an art in and of itself. To me, that is something that takes somebody who's a skilled profession. Let's put it that way. And I want it done right, and I don't have the time for it. See, I don't have the time. I don't have the technology. I don't have the skill set.
Yep.
Okay? But if I can find somebody who does, and does a good job, then it's a win-win for me. And that's part of that balance. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. That pendulum's always in motion, trying to find balance, back and forth, And the idea is to get the movements as slow as we can. Now, again, that's always going to be changing as we progress into the future too.
To find the right skill sets, or to find the right process. Are you talking to find the right, like?
I'm talking like to find what fits our busy society today compared to where we would have been 200 years ago in this country.
And how close we are to the process and to where
now,
our food comes from.
If things got really bad for my 3 kids, and there was no factory processing or no butcher shops, let's just say modern day butcher shops, they would eat. They would eat. They know how to grow a garden, they know how to hunt, and they know how to process that product, okay? Not everybody, knows how to do that, but at the same time, I don't know a thing about software programming.
Well,
I don't have a clue. I mean, you might as well talk in Greek to me, right?
Right, but something I've thought about, if there was a, let's say there was a collapse of some kind, right, and like software relies on a global economy.
Correct.
Almost everything almost all the products we consume today
Correct.
rely on materials and labor that comes from around the world.
Mm-hmm.
But even the materials alone, we're talking materials that come from around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Some components might be mined in Africa, some are mined in China, wherever. The chip manufacturing is all happening in China.
Right.
So it's like, we got hit pretty hard. Everybody's starting to realize this with COVID, as supply chains were disrupted, right? We start to recognize some of the frailties, and this is one of my big concerns as well, and one of the reasons why I wanted to talk directly with farmers, directly with people who are involved in food production. In terms of resiliency of our society and our country, right? Like we gotta start thinking about like sourcing things here. Being responsible for our own resiliency of this economy, of this society.
Yep. I couldn't agree more with you. I couldn't. And I'm not an isolationist, but I couldn't agree more. And I don't think that's what you're saying. But what I'm saying is I think that
autonomy is the principle that I think is so important, and we can take inspiration from life itself.
Mm-hmm.
We have autonomous cells, right? There's bacteria and whatever at that level. We have autonomous multicellular organisms like this dog or you or me or these plants, right? Nature creates many experiments. And if one experiment fails, that's okay. There's another like billion experiments going on. And that's the model of success that life has shown us.
Right.
And each one of those experiments has everything it needs to survive. Right, that's autonomy, right? So where I think we've run astray a little bit in the way our economy and our society is situated now is we're overly reliant upon centralized infrastructure, monopoly companies, right?
It's convenient. When you say it's convenient for us as
we
a
start to
society
get the
today.
economy of scale, and there's some efficiencies from it, but in terms of like the world is not a predictable world.
No. Nope.
Things happen that we didn't account for.
Correct.
And so monoculture and monopoly is not the path towards resiliency.
Correct.
And if we bring that to a global level and we say, well, all the computer chips are going to be manufactured in China.
Right, I agree.
Now the entire technology sector is really vulnerable to disruption of that supply line.
Well, we become vulnerable to China in that specific, and and your supply line is in a polyculture, it's like a spider web. Right? So if you've got a spider web hung out here and you've got all these lines, you pull one string over here, the whole web moves. Well, that's what you're talking about. So if we say, okay, China, you're going to make all of our chips, and China says one day, now that we're totally relying on them, we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the technology to manufacture these things, what do we do now? It's the same thing with food to me. It's the same exact thing. It can be any market we want to talk about. And I agree with you. We need to become more in this country, which I think is where we're at right now, coming to right now. We need to be more independent. That's what and that's the word to me of this year of 2020 is independence.
Nothing
freedom.
could be more clear right now.
Yep.
Right? Like people have it staring them in the face, the vulnerability that we have. And quite honestly, like, it's not like it's gotten that bad,
No,
really.
it's not bad.
You know, people have food on the table.
Yep.
Now the meat prices have gone up, and I've heard all kinds of weird shenanigans happening, and I'm not in that, so maybe you have some perspective you could share on what the hell is going on.
What the hell is going on is that we have the government involved in our food supply chain. We have the federal government involved, and it shouldn't be. That's my opinion now. But that's what's going on. I see they're saying, oh, well, you know, the producer makes this much, and, you know, it's this much at the store. This doesn't make any sense. So the middleman's making all the money. And all of a sudden, okay, so stop selling to the middleman. So stop complaining about it and do something about it.
I watched a video from a cattle rancher, and he was talking about how there's a system for pricing cattle, and he was saying it doesn't make sense. But can you describe that system for pricing cattle and what, like, your understanding of it is?
I can't explain it because it makes zero sense to me. So we let some arbitrary packing house dictate to the producer what their animal is worth, and it's all based off of a faux supply and demand, in my opinion. Again,
okay, so this cattle rancher explained this to me, or, you know, said this on the video. I'm a software engineer. I'm like, I don't know what he just said. I don't know what he just said. That's really, there's some sort of feedback loops involved, and there's a, but essentially you're being told what your cow is worth.
Absolutely. So let's
this is not a free market.
No, not at all, in my opinion. Nope. The commodity market is not a free market at all. Let's do it this way. Let's say your car is for sale. I need a car. You have 2 cars. You're going to set up, I'm going to say, Brandon, you want to sell that car? You're going to, let me think about it. And then you're going to come back to me with a price, right? And I'm going to say, it's a little more than I wanted to pay. I don't want to pay $20,000 for that. Would you take 15? Right? You see what I'm saying? And then we're going to go back and forth.
And
at the end of the day, exactly.
Or we don't.
A piece of real estate is only worth what a person is willing to pay for it. You can ask whatever. You can have an acre and you can ask $10 million for it. But if in reality the highest price you can get for it is $10,000, that's what it's worth. But we don't do that with our commodity market. Whether that, it's so controlled.
Does that go beyond meat? You say the commodity market.
Grain. Look at grain.
I'm not familiar with this, so
grain is sold by the bushel. Wheat, right? Corn. What is the number one thing that corn gets fed to today?
Cows,
hogs. Okay. See what I'm saying? This is draw the dots and just start connecting the dots.
Right. So you've got an economy of sort of like subcomponents.
Yes.
Here.
Yes. And that dictates. So see what I do here is I feed no grain. On our herbivores or herbivores. We raise a few hogs for slaughter. They do get supplemented with grain, but they're out on pasture, right? They're out in paddocks. But our cattle get 0 grain. Period. That's non-negotiable to me. So that's a niche market for people who are looking for a healthy product, micronutrient dense. Okay. Yeah. So my per pound is going to instinctively be higher than what the commodity market is. If I go to the sale yard or whatever, okay.
Nutrients are higher.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
So it should be worth more because I'm producing a different product than a grain-fed herbivore.
Well, yes. and you should be able to market that appropriately. Find the market that's willing to pay for that product and to sell it at the price they're willing to pay. That's not the case right now.
No, it is, but you got to go work for it.
Okay.
It's not Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. The old movie Field of Dreams. That's not how it works. The problem today is the path of least resistance in agriculture is the commodity market. And I'm going to,
Okay, so there are other options available to you, but it's just that the main
Absolutely.
the main volume, the way these things are sold is the commodities market.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
No.
Correct. Why do you think these packing houses are so big and they have their own feedlots that are absolutely, the numbers are staggering?
So, like, let's say you want to go outside of the commodities market. What's stopping you?
Okay, so what is? You mean if I have
Let's say you have cattle you want to sell.
for butcher, what's stopping you is the extra work that you have to go to. You have to self-market. You have to self-butcher. Right now, for me to sell you a package of ground beef, it has to be USDA slaughtered, USDA inspected under packing, right? And then I can legally sell that to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Otherwise, the sale has to happen, quote unquote, on the hoof before it's even did in this state. All right, and in most states. So it's extra work. Lie down. It's extra work. You see what I'm saying? I have to self-market. Then I have to find a butcher who will handle my product, what I've raised, the way I want, because I'm not selling you just a T-bone steak that you went down to the store or the supermarket and picked off the shelf because you thought it looked like a good one. I'm saying, Brandon, I've got a T-bone steak here. I am going to tell you that what I'm selling you is a high quality product. Okay? I am selling you a nutrient dense food that you're going to feel good when you're done eating, and it's going to taste good while you're eating it too. You're going to be satisfied when you're done.
Yeah.
But if I go to the supermarket, what do I see? Cage-free, organic, grain-fed, all natural. We got all these catchphrases and labels on everything.
Yep.
And as my brother would say, it doesn't do me any good. I can't eat those labels. And he's right. You can't eat the labels. So that's why it's more difficult to go into a direct market where I want to sell you a T-bone steak. I've actually got to raise it to 20 months, let's say, the steer to 20 months, and it has to go to slaughter. It has to come home. I have to store it, and then I have to market it to you. And okay, Brandon's going to ask me, well, why am I going to pay a 30% markup on this T-bone steak when I can go to the supermarket and get the same thing for less money per pound?
But I'm going to go look at the labels there, and I'm going to go find like a grass-fed steak
Sure.
or whatever.
Sure.
But what you're saying is that does not in any way encompass the living conditions of that animal. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So so from a marketing perspective, the challenge as a farmer here is like, how do I communicate? This is not a single sentence.
Correct.
To communicate the living conditions of an animal.
Correct. Yeah, it should be. I think we talked before about my definition of a free market economy is where my clients or customers hold me accountable for what I produce. That to me is how it works, the power of the purse. Okay, so I'm producing something for you. I'm ultimately in the customer service business, right? I may produce something, but at the end of the day, if what I produce is not what you need, I don't have anything to sell. What am I going to do with it? Okay,
Right.
And that's what I think. So that's what makes it tough. The commodity market makes it really simple. I load up calves, I go to town, I get whatever it is, $1.30 a pound for them. There you go. No questions asked, no problem.
But a cow is a cow to them.
Exactly. Except what I raise, does not fit what they want to see. They're looking for something that'll go to grain in a feedlot. And our animals are not that.
Something that'll go to grain. So they get the animal still living, and they're gonna put it in a lot
Yep.
where it's gonna go eat grain. And so if your animal looks at that grain and says, I ain't eating that,
And they're looking for a certain
that's a
phenotype.
problem. That's
It
a
is.
problem for them.
It is, and they're looking for a phenotype that will flesh and grow on that diet, on that grain.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for the opposite phenotype. I'm looking for something that will thrive, not only survive, but will thrive and flesh on what we have here on this hillside
Yeah.
right now, and in this creek and in this bottom. You see what I'm saying? And that's the difference between the two. My question is, where's the balance? Because it does become hard to scale that economically because you've got to stay somewhat local, but the large producers are not local. They're going elsewhere. They're going to a feedlot elsewhere, and then that feedlot's going to wherever. It may go to the East Coast. East Coast beef may come to the West. Southern beef may, you see what I'm saying? And I think that's how we become somewhat more independent, is starting that was the whole idea of the local food movement, I think, from the beginning. And it's not a perfect solution, it's flawed. But at least it's thinking outside the paradigm. We're outside of the box. We're not we're not pigeonholed. At least we're trying to create a solution rather than saying, oh, we just got problems, the sky's falling.
Yeah. Well, and I think we're gonna see this. We're gonna see the economy evolve. We're gonna see information technology come into the supply chains.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
We're gonna have more and more information about how things were sourced, how they were grown, and how those different strands are coming together into, if I have a pizza,
right.
Now I've got 100 different things actually on a plate that came from different places.
Correct.
And
correct.
So where did all that come from?
I see it now too, like in with Butcher Box and some of these other. There's another one out there. Well, there's several out there, but there's a paradigm shift happening already. In people are trying to become more local. We're seeing butcher shops now just plugged full. Just you can't get in. You can't get in. Everybody that has a animal for slaughter has got the hole plugged. There's no openings in the butcher shop for a year out right now is what we're finding.
Yeah.
So people are trying to make a change, and where I'm seeing a change because I'm aware of it. I'm seeing, there's a shift right now since COVID-19 has happened. There's a shift happening towards that because people are, but it's fear buying. To me, it's fear marketing, which drives me crazy. Which is the whole thing with the fear endemic. People aren't educating themselves.
We see these trends happen, like the news cycle, right? Like, and it is like a herd. People are like a herd of cattle, and they're running over in one direction, and they're running over in another direction, and their attention span is short. So it's like
Joey, quiet.
You can only, if you're motivated by some monetary emotion,
correct,
it can only last so long, right? And then the news has to get you excited about something else.
Correct. Emotional. Yep. Emotional marketing is what Rainey and I call it, emotional marketing. They feed off of your excitement, your fear, your depression, and it happens all the time. And right now, it's like, oh, we've got to buy meat. We've got to buy meat because there's a meat shortage. Just like the toilet paper thing.
Yeah.
Right? So, or look at Christmas time anymore. It drives me crazy. At Christmas time, all these people in fights and stuff at the Walmart over a stupid TV. Are you kidding me?
You wait a couple weeks.
Wait till the day after Christmas and go. Like you said, a couple weeks.
Is this a necessity that you're going to die without?
Correct. Yep. Is it really that important that you need to beat somebody else up for whatever the new gadget is that's the hot? And that's this emotional marketing to me. And I see it happening in the natural, homegrown grass. Again, we're back to labels.
But it's the difference between, like, if you work in the area and you've been working at this for years, for decades, and you're aware of these different issues, and then you see everybody get excited about it for a couple of days.
Right. It's a win.
And then they all go on to something else.
Right.
It's like, well, wait a second. Like, you didn't take the time to understand what's really going on here, and propose real solutions that are going to push this forward.
Correct. Yeah, we just created more problem. No, I shouldn't say that. We didn't create more. We will create some awareness through this because there's some people there is good to come out of this, even though it's short. We know it's going to be short-lived. But you see, when cattle prices went through the roof 8-9 years ago. Everybody was in the speculation market. Everybody was in the futures market in cattle. And that brought the price down because there was so much purchase that happened. Everybody dumped money in, and it came right back down. Just within 12 months, right? That's at the commodity level. Oh, this is all-time high. And it was all-time highs. It was huge numbers. People were excited and giddy about it. They went and spent money. And then the people that were buying from the producers had a boon. They were flush. They went and spent money. but we didn't fix anything. We just kept the revolution happening another 10 years or another 9 years, which is what they roughly say it happens.
What would fixing something look like?
Education. Start with education. Why? Why do we need to fix something? Why do we want to? And I think,
like, what are the three biggest problems, would you say, in the supply chain now?
quality of food.
And not awareness of differentiation of quality, right?
Quality of, quality, understanding or education, and a why, which kind of comes with education, but why does the consumer want to buy, and why does the producer want to produce that? What's the point of all of it? We don't have, so education, does go hand in hand, but that's what I see. I think we're being, I think the top three things I would stay with one, and I would think it would be health.
Health.
To me, it would
understanding
be
what health is.
Yeah. Why? And understanding that your diet and my diet are going to be completely different on any given day, depending on what we're doing. Maybe on any given season, right? And that's okay.
It's hard to there's so much information, it's hard to bridge that gap between like let's say I take the 23andMe, I find out about my genetic profile, I'm getting more in tune with my body, I'm feeling what my body needs. Sure. Like, I've got all this information on the health side, I might get a blood test, might see a nutritionist, got all that information coming in, and then on the supply side, there's all this information, right? Like, how was the animal raised? How were my vegetables raised?
Right.
Were they in the presence of chemicals?
Correct.
What was the soil condition like?
Right. There's all those things. Right.
It's overwhelming.
It is absolutely, it's overwhelming, and I think the thing to understand is that it is like going back to what I just said, that your diet, my diet's going to be it can be similar, but detailed is going to be different. And understanding that the example I gave of the cow, 30 different cows and 30 different diets within the same morning, same thing. They're all herbivores, right? They're all similar, but they're all eating what they need specifically at that time of day, for that reason, for that purpose, for what their body needs to either get rid of or to clean out, to detoxify of, or what it needs for energy to detoxify with. And just take what you know and go with that. I didn't understand all the gut bacteria 20 years ago, and it wouldn't have done me any good if I did. The knowledge actually was there. Even, let's just say, even 15 years ago, it was there. I could have gotten it, but it didn't mean anything to me. So it has to be about the education. The knowledge that you have or that you absorb is only as good as the application that you can make happen.
Well, I think something that we're coming to is that just experimentation is a part of the process.
Correct.
Right. Experimentation is part of the process, part of your process as a farmer, finding out what's working here.
Correct.
And experimentation needs to be part of the process of an individual figuring out what they want to eat. Right. They're going to learn certain things. They're going to learn certain things about their health. They might learn certain things about production and what's available to them. But then they got to try one thing versus another and see how they feel.
Correct. And my diet here in the Northwest would not be the same as if I lived in the Southwest.
How so?
Look at we have a longer winter here.
Yeah.
We have a darker season, right? The Southwest is going to be warmer longer, and we're going to be cooler longer comparatively. That, for me, depending on what I'm doing, if I'm outside still, in ag outside, those diets are going to be different. I'm just going to require less of some things and more of others.
Yeah.
And
your body might need more energy to produce heat out here. Yeah.
And I'm going to need more things to be able to, I'm not in the wintertime in the southeast, I'm not going to need as thick of a blood, for lack of a better term, to withstand the cold as I am here.
Yeah.
Or let's go even farther north, into Canada. It's completely different. So that diet change, and depending on what I'm going to do, if I'm fencing for 60 days straight in our country, I'm going to need more energy than if I am doing email marketing to my customers for 30 days. Sure. You see what I'm saying? This is what we don't take into context. And we need to have this ebb and flow mentality with it and try and balance ourselves and just be aware all the time. That's what my dogs are that way. I see it in my dogs. And so I try to apply what I see in my cattle diet changes in the wintertime to right now. My dog diet changes. Yeah. It's that simple, but it's that complicated to me.
Well, and it's just being in tune with the flow of information that's coming to you, right? Like the weather patterns, the climate here is
correct.
Is information you need to take into account.
Yep, you do.
I ended up telling my dad about Joe Rogan, and then, and then I come back up, and he's watched like 30 episodes or whatever, he got started on it.
He's hooked now, huh?
Yeah.
He kind of likes the Freedom of Information Act through Joe Rogan there.
Yeah, it really is. It really is good. It's like food for my soul. I like listening to longer conversations, and I like it when people can talk and they're not getting cut off. You watch the news, you watch like CNN, and they're cutting people off every other word. It's not conversation anymore.
Yep. But CNN has an agenda. Joe Rogan doesn't. Joe Rogan, I shouldn't maybe not say that, but Joe Rogan just wants, his show, obviously, he just wants the truth. He just wants people to say what's on their mind.
Yeah.
That's his agenda.
Yeah.
And take it or leave it, agree with it or not.
I think it is about the truth. I think it's about, people sharing their perspectives authentically.
Yep.
I take inspiration from his show, like, but I think this is like what's always been my angle on life as well, is I'm interested in the truth.
Right. Sure.
And in order to get there, or at least an approximation, to get closer, we have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to be open to new information.
Yep.
We have to be open to new evidence as it comes in.
Yep. Deal with it as you go.
If that starts to create a contradiction, then we have to look at that and recognize, well, maybe my model is wrong. Maybe the way I think reality is working is not the way it's really working.
Correct. Yeah, the more you know, the more you realize you have to learn. You have to be willing to change with that, or Kiyosaki's get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Same thing. Be willing to just look outside the box. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of virtue in just, I think, embracing, learning, embracing change.
Yep. If you can be a little bit flexible. The business model between the iceberg and the ocean. The iceberg's too rigid and the ocean's too fluid. What we want to be is that slushy part between the two. So where we have some structure but some movement and some fluidity to things, and I think that's a good example of what we're talking about here too. It's the same thing with this food movement too. There's the organic thing was great because it created a level of awareness that we don't need all this.
How we raise our food actually matters, right?
But what the problem is today is that organic food really is no better for you than conventionally grown food because it lacks nutrients too.
And why is that?
Soil.
Soil
The,
quality.
what's below our feet, what we're sitting on here, what's happening underground that we can't see with our naked eye, is even more than what we see going on right here.
Yep.
And that's what people don't understand. And I didn't understand that. I didn't know. There's that we know of right now. There's 1 trillion different types of bacteria, is what I was told. 1 trillion and counting. Are you kidding me? I don't even know what 1 trillion looks like. I can't. My brain does not fathom a trillion.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't need to. And I like big. I mean, I'm a big. But 1 trillion, that's a lot of zeros, man.
We got trillions of dollars flying around now, and nobody knows what that means.
Right. We've lost the reality of it. We've lost. Like, I know what 1 dog is. You know what I'm saying?
What's a trillion dogs?
What's a trillion dogs look, smell, act like, right? I mean, I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
Planet of dogs.
Right. It would be. It would be. So, that part, I think, that we don't realize, and what's going on in our bacteria. You asked me, and I'll answer it before I forget, what we raise here right now: beef, lamb. We do raise some pork still. We have chicken available now. That is raised by a friend of ours in the county. He raises the chickens on pasture, and then we slaughter them and sell them. And we wouldn't sell anything that to our customer base that we wouldn't eat ourselves, or I wouldn't feed to my children. So he does a real good job. But that's what we used to raise chickens here. It's not our thing. We're just.
Do you raise any for eggs for your family?
Yeah, we normally do. We're a little short on them right now on our egg layers. But yeah, normally we used to raise eggs is like the economy of scale is so huge to get to where it's profitable for eggs because we've become so used to paying $3 a dozen. I don't even know what supermarket prices are right now for a dozen eggs. Just to
three
go
to
about
five.
3?
Or maybe 2 to 5. Like, I think on the cheaper end, you might get a dozen.
And all you got to do is take one of our eggs and one of those supermarket eggs and crack them side by side in the same frying pan. And if you can't see the difference, you're totally colorblind. Instantly, you will see a bright orange. Wow, look at the color in that out of one of our eggs. Yeah. And these other ones are washed out pastel yellow, and we're not even into taste. That's just sight.
When I'm in Arizona, I get eggs from some friends have a farm, and yeah, it's totally different. It's a thicker yolk.
Yep, thicker yolk.
Yeah.
Take one raw one time. See what that does for you.
Yeah.
Just one. Yep. On an empty stomach. Actually, and without breaking the yolk, the swallow. Most people can't get through that, but you will, and it's total. It's a different experience. It really is, and it's a real health benefit. I mean, when you study it. But I would not take one of these supermarket eggs raw. No way. I wouldn't feed one to my dog. I like my dog too well to feed it to him. He's too important to me as a tool to feed him a supermarket egg. I'm not kidding. People laugh at me, but it's the truth. If I feed it to my dog, it's probably more than good enough for you to eat. Really, I mean, and there's not all my dogs, but I have a few dogs that I really rely on and trust, and so I take care of them like I do my own kids. And if I feed it to my dog, you can rest assured that you can probably eat it. And it's the same. Look at our dog food today. Even going into that is such junk. It's so processed because it's convenient. See, we've become a convenient society.
We have this idea that if it's on the supermarket shelf, then it's safe and healthy.
Sure. The FDA and the USDA created that for us. They created that matrix for us, and we live in it now. Gladly, we live in it. We don't even try to unplug anymore. We've taken.
And I think there are good things about having regulations and standards. There are places where that has helped us as a society, but we have to also look at the places where that's been misapplied, and it is creating problems for us.
Exactly. We're back to balance again, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're right back to balance.
Well, and none of this system removes the responsibility of individuals to make their own decisions,
Correct.
and to come to their own knowledge about what truth is.
Correct. Constitution, or I'm sorry, the Declaration of Independence says we are endowed with certain unalienable rights by our Creator, among those being life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It sums it. To me, the older I get and the more I think about that statement that Jefferson wrote, the more simple and more obvious it becomes to me. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What you just said. What you just said is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
But you have to take it.
You have
Like,
it. Right.
This,
It's an action.
This responsibility to come to
Yes.
your own truth, to come to your own awareness, to come to your own decision making in life. You have to take it.
You do.
And when you leave that on the table, like, guess what? There's a whole bunch of people out there ready
Correct.
to make decisions for you.
Correct. Correct. They're ready for you to be their cow, or their steer, or their bull, or whatever it is. They are. That's how this. And you're right. The pursuit of happiness doesn't mean, that means everybody's own pursuit of happiness is going to be different.
Sure.
So we could have 300. What are we at? 350 million, 320.
I think it should be a lot different more different than it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason, one of the reasons there's a lot of like depression and anxiety is people are deeply unsatisfied with the way their
Sure.
lives are going,
Sure.
and the menu of options that they've been presented. Well, what a healthy life looks like for them might
Correct.
not be on that menu.
Correct. Correct. Yep. But we live in a place, at least as of right now, to where we can still execute that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness
You mean personally here, you living here
in this country.
in this country?
Within our border in this country, we still do. We just came back from Oklahoma, and we stopped in Colorado. Is crazy, but anyway, we stopped in Hugo and stayed at an Airbnb on the way home there, and the lady that owned the place that we stayed with was born in South Africa, and at 19 she came over here on vacation, never went back to South Africa, stayed here, and I got to visit with her. And I asked her, she brought her parents over here to America, and they live right there in Hugo too. And I said, so where do we go? I mean, if we lose this, she's very, very concerned about this country right now, because the reason she stayed when she was 19 and why she, continues to live here. She's an American. She's not a South African. She's an American and proud of it,
Mhm.
And I said, so what happens if we give up? Because that's what it would amount to. If we give up our freedoms in this country. Where do we go? She goes, there's nowhere to go. I'm not going back to South Africa, is what she said. I have no desire to want to go back there.
Yeah.
That's what scares me. That's what we should be worried about. And we don't have, you and I aren't going to agree 100%. Her and I aren't going to agree 100%. But I'm going to tell you what, we're going to have the same, if we just break it down into a few simple ideals, all three of us are going to have the same ideals. Those same simple ideals that we want to believe in, to operate in, to live.
Yeah, I'm with you. If I rephrase that, like, even though there's a lot of particulars we might not agree on, there are common principles that we can come to, and the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, are good examples of this.
Mm-hmm.
We can have a code of laws. We can have
Sure.
have a common set of agreements. So I think one of the problems that I've seen when we get into a lot of political divisiveness, sometimes we just should not be making these decisions at a federal or even a state level. Right?
Absolutely.
If you can't get everybody to agree, then maybe the question you're asking is the wrong question. Maybe there needs to be allowed to be some variation here.
Right. There does. It's too much overreach. Too much. Last time we talked, I told you this, and Herman Cain just died the other day. He said, we've become a nation of Asians. We have too many regulations, too much legislation, and too much taxation. And to simply put it in a simple format and 3 points like that, which I like I like things simple so I can understand them. A nation of too many Asians is what he said, and it's so true. Legislation, taxation, and regulation, and I think if we could, I agree with you. There is a certain amount of laws, but those we can have all the laws we want, but if we don't have a human decency, those laws don't mean anything anyway, right? We're just gonna do whatever we want. There has to be a certain amount of moral aptitude for a republic to stand. We can't just run willy-nilly.
Well, another point I want to raise though is like the emotional sort of like people jumping on a hot button issue, like planning and infrastructure, or so I should say infrastructure requires planning.
Right.
You know, creating something requires planning. It's much easier to destroy things than it is to create them.
Absolutely.
And so I think what we lack right now is a clear vision on where we want to go, and then the discipline and the patience to actually see it through.
You mean we as a people?
Yeah, because we're jumping on issues. We're getting excited about issues, but
right. But
that's not how we solve things.
No, it's not. And that
we gotta sit down and we gotta think about it. We gotta sit various parties down at the table, understand what their needs are. There's a diplomacy effort here. There's a planning effort.
But we'll never come up with solutions if we don't extract emotions out of it, which is what creates the hot button and the righteous indignation or the anger or whatever you want to throw at it. The
emotions are valid, right? There is a response to something, but you know, so if you get really angry about something here on the farm, how often does that solve your problem?
Never. The only way it solves a problem is because the what made me angry or upset creates a disturbance to where it wakes me up that I have to come up with a solution.
Yeah.
But then if I let that anger
calm yourself down,
right,
and you start working through, well, how can I solve this?
There's the key. If I allow that anger to control, or that emotion, let's just say emotion, if I allow that anger, that emotion to control me, no, you never get a solution. You never, ever, ever get a solution continuing to be angry, you know, and you know, personally, that's not my struggle with, really. I mean, you know, I have a tendency to allow things to control me through anger because I get so mad and I get so indignant. Why did that? You see what I'm saying? And I have to continually, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, continue to improve that, right? Continually. It's like when the dog doesn't do something that I want. When I say come by and he goes away to me, I can jump up and down and cuss at him and be mad. But if I stay mad at him, he's not ever going to come by. He's not. You see what I'm saying? He's not going to use the direction. It's the same thing. It's the same thing of, you know, why the cows keep getting out up there. Well, I'm mad because the fence is down because the deer or the elk, let's say the elk knocked the fence down, the cattle keep getting out in that spot. So I can be mad about it all day long, but really the simple solution is to just say, okay, I'm not mad anymore. I'm not going to get angry about it. I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to take my T-post driver and I'm going to take my fence stretcher and I'm going to go up there and fix that fence. And that's the solution.
Or let's get curious. Let's get curious about like why this is happening. Why is the elk, you know, choosing to come in through this section, right?
You could, and if you know, there could be a reason to that. Or the reason could simply be that that's where the elk want to come through. And there ain't nothing you're going to do about it unless you want to put a 10-foot concrete wall up.
Yeah.
You know, which is that a solution? Maybe, depending on. It's not a solution for me.
Maybe that's it. You just got to get out there and repair the fence.
Exactly. So you have two choices. You can be mad about it, or you can just go fix it.
Yeah.
Just go fix it. Just go fix the fence. Just go and I think that's really, really super simple, you know, analogy. But I think if we can simplify things sometimes, and to simplify it, you take the emotion out of it. You take the whatever it is, the garbage out of it, and then you look at it objectively. You're okay then. You know, then you can come up with a solution. Yeah, you do need to understand where other people are coming from. Depending, if we're talking about what needs to happen in this country, yeah, you got to be sensitive to what other people think, you know, or what their position is. Just like that needs to be reciprocal, though, because if it's not, if I don't try to understand your point, you don't understand my point, then we're just in an argument. We're not debating. We're not looking for the truth. We're just arguing.
Well, and really, like, I think one of the things we have to recognize is that we're a country of very different people,
mm-hmm.
or at the city level, at the state
mm-hmm.
level, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, any group of people, everybody's got a different agenda and a different way of living life that's going to be ideal for that person. Right. So we need to honor each other's autonomy, and to say, well, you know, it's okay to live life from your perspective. And if we're gonna like come up with some rules, some governance for our society, we need to look at, well, what are all the different ways that people are trying to live life, and how can we create a system that respects that?
Right. Tough question.
Yeah.
Really, it is. I mean, that's. I mean, that might be.
But that's my point. Is we need to stop expecting that there's going to be an easy answer, and that the more emotional I am about something, the closer I am to a solution.
Right.
No,
that's not how it works.
You're getting further and further away.
There's no silver bullets.
Yeah.
Whether we're talking about what this country needs, or whether we're talking about the business platform, right? There's no silver bullets. They don't exist. It's a pipe dream, if you will. And I think if we can recognize that, and what you're talking about, what someone who lives in the city's needs and ideals are going to be different than what mine are, that's okay, as long as we have those common principles: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So I can have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as long as it doesn't infringe on someone else's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. To me, that's how it works. That's what I see. So if I start doing something that infringes or impedes your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, now all of a sudden I'm not doing something right. I really think that. Because if we boil the fat off of everything, we get right down to bare bones and look at those three simple principles, right? It doesn't mean I have to agree 100% with what you're doing, but it should mean that I respect it. I respect Brandon enough. Herman Cain also said he did a commercial one time with a guy, his campaign manager, smoking a cigarette, and everybody raised all kinds of hell about him. You know, how can you do that? And smoking cigarettes is so bad, and da 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 da. And the guy's name was Roger, and he said, "Look, here in our in our campaign group, we allow people to be who they are, and so we just decided Roger smoked cigarettes, and we just decided to allow Roger to be Roger. And I don't have to agree with him smoking cigarettes, but Roger allows me, Herman, to be Herman."
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, what a simple life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness thing right there.
This is hard to do.
It is. No, but it is.
This is hard to do. You know, everybody does things differently, right?
Yep.
And,
yeah, sure.
And
they
sometimes
do.
It's hard to see somebody like over there doing things differently than you do.
Absolutely. My neighbor up here on the hill, right? You can't. It's just out of your sight. The next ridge over. They had an outfit come in to spray rosebushes, these wild rosebushes we have here. Okay.
Yeah.
They were going to have it done. It wasn't going to cost them. The county was going to do it as an experiment and see what happened with this chemical. And it was right on a fence line we shared. The rose bushes were uphill. Okay.
So the county wants to experiment with chemicals, and you raise your hand and say, "Pick me."
That's the modern, right? Convenience.
Okay.
Right. No, but that's how it works. That's exactly how. That's what I'm saying. The government has no business being an ag. The government will never solve the rosebush problem. Never. Not in a million years. Not in a million years. They'll only make it worse. And until we, as free citizens of this country, can understand that simple principle and apply it to everything, we will continue to ask the government for help and continue to give up a little bit of our freedom for a little bit of security. And as Benjamin Franklin said, we will soon find that we have neither. But the respect thing from them and what they do was that they wanted to spray those rose bushes, and at the time he was late 70s, my neighbor, and he came and he said, look, they want to come over and spray those rose bushes over there in the bull lot just above you, and I just want to make sure it's okay with you, because we share a fence right there. That to me is the epitome of respect.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
He was late 70s and I was mid 30s at the time, late 30s, and I do things differently than he did, and he does things differently than I do, but even today we're good friends. I'll sit down and have a conversation.
He respects that, and he doesn't want to do something that's going to interfere with your designs.
And here's what my response was to him. I said, Melvin, it's on your side of the fence. I'll be damned if I'm going to tell you what to do on your property. Well, I know, but it could drift. I said, yeah, it sure could. Your intention is to not let that chemical drift. I don't want it to, but I can't control everything. I said, yeah, do what you want. If you think spraying rose bushes is the best for you and your property, then go spray those rose bushes with a helicopter with the county chemical. I can't say I love the idea, because I don't, but what I loved was the fact that him and I have respect for each other. That's it. He's got his life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and I have mine right here, and we share a fence line between us. That's it. That's a 4-strand barbed wire fence.
Yep.
That's it. That's all there is between us. Almost an imaginary line, if you will, right? So I think that to me, anyway, Brandon.
In terms of the soil, in terms
Correct.
of the plants that are
Correct.
growing, they don't see the fence.
Correct. They don't see it. They don't have a clue what's going on. They don't have a clue. So if we can apply that same simple strategy to what you're talking about, the difference in lifestyles between urban and rural, I don't see how we lose. It's just about respect. It's about understanding. It's just about having these conversations.
I was thinking about this as I was driving home last time. Thinking about we talked about the difference in perspective between rural and city, and one of the things is the homeless situation, or like understanding of social services. It's like, you don't have homeless out here. They wouldn't survive the winter.
No, they wouldn't.
You need shelter here.
Right.
You need warmth. And I think if somebody's in that situation, they either get a camper and they learn to take care of themselves. They have family that takes them in. You don't hear of people dying out in the snow, so somehow they're getting taken in.
Right.
I don't know. The city, it's like things are very driven by economics. It's like
Sure.
you have to have $10 to buy a sandwich. You're not gonna grow your own food. You're not gonna forage there.
Right.
And I mean, the other thing is when you see a homeless population, or you see people that are genuinely insane.
Mm-hmm.
Might have been drugs. It might have been something else.
Right.
But some of the homeless population have just various mental things going on as well. So yeah, so you see these problems in the city, and if that's your reality and that's what you're seeing as you go to work in the morning, I think you have a different sensitivity to, like, okay, well, like man, I feel like we need to do something about this. Maybe social services have a place.
Maybe.
And you have a whole different set of circumstances out here in the country where somebody in the city might not be able to understand that. So, I was thinking about this, and I was like, well, why don't we just have a different policy in the city versus the country? And instead of trying to make everybody pay taxes for something that's a city problem, why not have the city be responsible for figuring out how to manage these problems, and then it can be communicated to a constituency that understands that.
Isn't that why there's mayors and aldermen and all that?
Sure.
And there's city policies. And I mean, my whole thing with social services is I want to help people, or welfare or any of that type of thing. I don't want to be forced to. I don't want my freedom to help someone at the organic level be taken away from me, and that's what's happened today in America. Like, I am forced to pay taxes, and that money goes to that. I am forced to, and I can go into a whole myriad of things here, but like school taxes is another one that drives me crazy. I am being forced to do that, not willingly be able to do that. And most
you're homeschooling here, right?
We did. Yep, our kids are done. Well, Brianne's got a year left, but our kids are basically done now. But yeah, we homeschooled. They went to school for quite some time, and I was on the school board for 5.5 years. And anyway, I've kind of been through that and got a little bit of an education. But I want to be able to help somebody, and we do. But I help who I want to help, not turn it over to a bureaucracy that's born to fail. It was created to fail. Fail the system. That drives me nuts. I want to see it at the organic level. I guess
you don't have any control over, if you see stuff that's not working, you don't have any control over how that money's being spent. Not very directly.
And we know that government, if it's not working, they're not going to change anything. They're going to throw more money at it. They're going to raise taxes. We need to do this, and they're going to get up on a soapbox, on a stump. They're going to say, you need to vote for me, Brandon, because you need to do this, Seth. You need to donate to my campaign because da-da-da-da. I want to fix the homeless problem. That frustrates me because the government's never going to fix a problem. Never. We know that. We have.
Well, I don't think that's true. So my dad works for the transportation department
in Phoenix.
No, here in Idaho.
In Idaho, okay.
Now they might not do everything right, but it's hard to argue that we'd be better off, without. Well, I think that's good as a service.
Idaho Department of Transportation?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's paving the roads. That's
paving the roads.
Bridge and road infrastructure to me.
That's right.
That's completely different. That's part of the government's.
Well,
that's part of the government's responsibility. It's part of the reason we pay taxes.
Right, but that's
defend our borders and pave the roads, and what the heck, we'll let you send the mail around.
That's sort of a line to draw in the sand. What do we consider infrastructure? What do we consider common services that everything else relies upon? That we are, that's worthy of that decision to invest in as a society, right?
Well, I can tell you one thing. There's nothing in the United States Constitution that talks about the FDA, the USDA, Homeland Security, TSA, and the list just goes on. The Department of Energy, the Department of Education. Okay.
Sure.
So to me, that's where it's pretty black and white. And if we can't accept that, then our constitutionally protected republic is doomed to fail. We're not a democracy. We use a democratic process to elect our officials. That's what I think. That's what. That's how it was supposed to be, simple like that. Does that change over time? Yeah, as this country grows and changes, it may change a little bit. The adaptation of that may be a little bit different, but I think if we can't stay to those core principles like you just asked, what are those, then what are we doing? I mean, we have to we have to set our compass to something, right? If we can't, I'm not a very good anarchist, but
Well, no, and I think there's different extremes,
there is.
and
There is.
if people got some of the things that they're praying for, I think they'd be sorry.
Sure. Sure.
That's just the way it is. Like I think going for total anarchy, is really a failure to appreciate what we have and where it's coming from.
Right.
Right. Like that you can walk peacefully around and
Right.
and nobody's attacking you. Like we have a safe place to conduct our lives and to
We
conduct
do.
our, like, this whole economy is existing within that
It is.
protection.
And that's the moral compass that we have to have, because none of it's going to work if we are all in that anarchy type mindset, right? Or none of it's going to work if we're in that fascist type mindset or socialist type mindset, right? It's just, it doesn't work. So we have to have common human decency, respect, again.
Well,
I think.
And I think there's nuance. We're designing systems here, right? When we're talking about governance, we're designing systems. When you're looking at your farm, you're designing systems,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're designing systems for food production, and you're connected with the overall marketplace.
Correct.
So,
Well, with my market,
yeah,
with what our market that we create, and that our group of people that we market to, our ideal customer. I don't operate in the red ocean. We operate in the blue. The commodity market's the red ocean. A lot of noise, a lot of distraction, a lot of sharks, a lot of blood in the water. That's for those people that like that. I don't. I'm marketing to a specific individual or set of individuals.
they're more health conscious.
Well, more health conscious, some, yeah, more independent, more patriotic, more not afraid to have these type of conversations, unpolitically correct, because I don't believe in politically correctness at all. Just people who are willing to think, and that's what we're that's who we're talking to when we
I think
market.
that's what we need to call to and encourage and cultivate in people.
Right. It is
because it can be cultivated.
Yep.
It's not
Yep.
just that you're one type of person or another.
Nope.
And the culture that we're living in now was also cultivated, is
Right.
being cultivated.
Right. We're being fertilized. Abraham Lincoln said, policies of the classroom of one generation will become policies of the government in the next. So yeah, cultivated, absolutely, that's a great word for it. Being fertilized, being watered, been cultivated. Seeds have been sown, and we're harvesting seeds today. In 2020, we're harvesting seeds that were planted back when. And some of it, I don't know how, maybe 100 years ago, maybe 150 years ago, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's being cultivated. So you need to create the environment for what you want to grow. If you create an environment for a monoculture, that's what you're going to get. If you go up there on the prairie and you till and you disc and you chem fallow and you plant barley and then you fertilize for barley, you're going to get a field of nothing basically but barley. Maybe on the outskirts of the field, you're going to have some different weeds. But for the most part, when you look down those rows of barley, boom, 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 head on down, that's what you got. You don't have anything else.
Yeah.
So that's what cultivate's a really good word for that. I like that. But we need to cultivate a polyculture, and we have, and that's what this country was, right? I mean, we have immigrants from all over the place.
Yeah, and it's I think it's remembering the roots of what people have taken pride in this country, right? Like people take pride in self-reliance and in autonomy.
Yep.
But it's recognizing where, you might be taking pride in that, but recognizing a lot of areas where it's been taken away from you. If you don't have accurate information, how good is your decision-making process?
Very.
Yeah. Or if you've had a set of values that you've been trained to follow, and it's like the headlines are very sensational, right? And they're cueing into your emotions. As soon as you get into an emotional trigger state, you're no longer, you've lost some autonomy, right? And you're being herded.
Right. You are.
So I think we need to build back up our immune system socially, informationally, and the way our brains work. We need to build back up sort of a social immunity of like, recognize when you're under attack, recognize when you're being manipulated and led down a path, and that immunity needs to kick in and say like, nope, my system's being hijacked here, and I need to bring myself back into my rational thinking self.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point.
And if somebody's trying to lead me down a path, I have to ask why. What's their agenda? What's their game? How does this work into their strategy? Whether it's a political strategy, whether it's a corporate strategy, there's something that they're gaining, that they're benefiting from leading people in this direction.
Right. That's very true. There is. Unfortunately, that's true. Always an agenda.
It's just a fact. It's just a reality. People don't do things for no reason.
Correct. Well, they shouldn't. Some do, it seems like. But yeah, they're. I think some people do do things for no reason because of what you're just talking about. They're not aware.
At the level when there's millions of dollars being invested,
right?
And there was a team of researchers that went into determining the direction that they're taking. Yeah. Right. There's reasons behind it.
Right. There is. Absolutely there is. And if we don't take the time to stop and ask why or question or look at things from outside, then you're right, we're in trouble. And we're there. I don't think anything's more obvious than that right now than with this fear-demic we're going through right now. I really don't.
It's a fear-demic.
The fear-demic. What else would you call it?
There, Lighting. They'll be on. We'll put the U's, which we'll walk up there and see them. The girls got them staked out. I do the same thing with the goats and the billies down here. Brandon, I don't know if you can see him. Right there's the billy. He's staked out too. And I'll do that with the nanny. But I stake them out on these wild rose bushes.
Okay.
And I get free food. Well, everybody else is spending money to get rid of rose bushes. I'm making money on rose bushes with my goats.
Because you just feed them to the goats.
I use them as a feed source. The goats love them.
Yeah.
They get fat off of them.
Huh.
So, especially now, like when things are dry. Well, that's blackberry brush. That's another one that's a good feed source for goats. But the rose bushes are green. And you can see these goats are in this little pasture right here. And you see all that dead woody brush? That's rose bushes.
Okay.
That used to be alive.
Okay.
The goats have grazed them to death.
Huh.
So I've overgrazed the rose bushes with goats. So it's a good problem. Look at the difference in the color. See, and these have been grazed by sheep. I haven't put goats on these, but the sheep have been on these down here.
Right.
See,
right. So you're saying
these are goats.
Yep. The goats
and sheep.
The goats have killed these,
yeah.
But the ones they sprayed, no difference.
They came back. They died. See, they
died
started
and came back.
To die and came back, so they wasted their time. For me, if these rose bushes come back next year, I'm fine with that because I just got more free feed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I ain't worried about it. I ain't afraid of the rose bushes anymore.
Yeah.
15 years ago, I might have been. Today, bring them on. The only thing I have to be afraid of is being able to afford enough fence to be able to eat all these rose bushes with goats. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I started staking them out. But this literally, Brandon, you could not see through there, and now you can. And because I'll say one thing about them rose bushes: when you dig them up, the soil, and the same thing with the blackberries, the soil underneath is just absolutely black rich.
Oh yeah.
Unbelievable the amount of carbon that they put into the soil.
Huh.
Yep, absolutely. But look how hard that would be to, and these are thorny.
Well, this is
Impossible to
another.
walk through here.
This is another sort of thing that well, nature balances itself out, right? Like if the soil needs more acidity or more base, like the plants are going to grow there, they're going to balance that out. So when we interfere with that process, we're also we're continuing to create an out of balance situation, right?
Could be. You sure could be. I mean, you can create an out of balance situation by grazing with goats too, or cattle, or sheep, or whatever it is, hogs. The pendulum's always in movement.
So
It never stops dead center because there is no such a thing. So even a balance scale, we look at it probably underneath a microscope, we would see that it continues to just teeter.
It's only balanced with regards to some objective,
Generally.
right?
Generally. Yep. My objective is not to see rose bushes in here. So I want to see these gone. I want to see a healthy enough soil where I have more grass. So that this bottom in here, this flat, what we call flat on Salmon River in here, it actually produces more feed, more tons of feed per acre than what it is right now. And I'll get there, but it's going to take time.
And you're just gonna continue to graze with the goats.
Goats and sheep. Yep, that's all I can do, and just stay profitable with the goats and sheep and the cattle without putting a bunch of fertilizer and pesticide and herbicide down. That's just what I want to do.
Yeah.
So to me it's an input. So I'm trying to eliminate inputs, but that they grow healthy, and the turkey and deer love them. These rose bushes, because of the rose hips they put off, and actually the rose hips are a really good source of vitamin C.
So I wanted to ask you about actually getting the property here and what went into making that decision. Can you bring yourself back to that part of your life?
Basically,
You were
what went into the decision was real simple. These folks were going to sell this place, and like I mentioned, we was down the road there, almost a half a mile down that first place coming up. And Rainey and I were there. The kids were really little. Liam was 6 at the time, 7 at the time. 5, 6. So anyway, in that neighborhood.
How old were you?
I was 30.
30.
So I remember telling Rainey that I said, if they sell that place, what'll happen is it'll become subdivided. And I said, I'm not going to live. I said, I can't live here with a big subdivision up the road. I said, and these folks were like surrogate grandparents to me as a young kid anyway. So I said, I think we should try and do something. I think we should go talk to Bob and Catherine and, let them know we're interested and get some details and blah, 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 and just see if there's any way. And I said, I would rather try and do something and fail or lose than to be 50 years old looking back and saying, I wonder what would have happened if. And that was it. I just blindly jumped. Definitely not the smartest business proposition I ever made, but live and learn.
It wasn't based on that, right? It was based on being here, on seeing the land and wanting to caretake for it.
Correct. Yeah, it was, and I would have made some different business decisions. Hindsight's always 20/20. Looking back then, but maybe the deal wouldn't have gone through. I don't know. anyhow, it was kind of meant to be too. There was a lot of forces against us, if you will, and a lot of things went our way, and we got a lot of benefit. So I'm thankful for that. I'm glad we did it. It hasn't been easy. It's a great place for the kids to grow up and learn. I've learned a ton. My level of understanding and awareness and knowledge is exponential compared to 14 years ago. So it's just
Everything that happens, you got to figure it out.
Yep. And you struggle and you claw and you blood, sweat, and tears, literally blood, sweat, and tears. And if you don't love it and you're not invested into it, then you're going to walk, because it's not a comfortable place to be. I'll be honest with you. Life was a lot more comfortable, when I was 30 than now today. It really was. It was a lot easier. But that's not who I am, or obviously, or what I want to do in life. I don't look always for the paved road. I kind of look for the trail that maybe has a blaze on the tree every quarter mile. You got to tear some brush out on your way through it. But it's been worth it. We've learned a lot, and we're still learning, and we'll continue to learn. So the kids have been a big help. That was the biggest benefit, was for them. So anyway, they know a lot more. Liam knows a lot more at 19 than I ever did. Way more. And he wanted to learn, and he was in it.
Just being close to the natural world, like understanding what plants need, what animals need to grow and thrive. Yeah.
He was in an environment cultivated for that, and he just took to it. He really just took to it. Like a weed growing on the hillside here. He just flourished. Didn't matter drought, didn't matter cold, and his sisters are both the same way. So, but yeah, it was a good move. It was a tough one, but that's what it was. The whole getting here was based on, I don't want to be 50, looking back and wondering, I wonder what would have happened if. I told Rainey, I don't want to say those words, and she said, okay. So ignorance is bliss, and that really is what put us here. Had I known then what I know now, that'd be a tough decision to make.
Right. Knowing, here's the plot of land. Here's what's possible in that. Given current techniques.
Yep.
Who knows what new is going to come out.
Right.
So when you bought the property, were there cattle here? Was there something to take over?
No, there was nothing here. The only thing to take over was wore out fences, and springs needing redeveloped and stuff like that. So there was no livestock involved. So we did buy some cattle and started trying to grow a herd, and we were a monoculture at the time. And cattle's what I really love. We walk around and look at the goats and everything. Goats are they're a tool. Like I talked about, and they cash flow, so that's good. But I love cows. I like cows. That's kind of where my heart's at. But in the essence of staying away from a monoculture, and what we looked at, and what cows do good off of, and what they don't, the goats plug a lot of holes, in our property, and that's what we needed to do. So, but no, there was nothing here. There was no, the house and the barn was here.
So you started with maybe some cows and chickens.
Yep.
What did you start with?
Cows and chickens. That's basically what we started with. Cattle and chickens, and 3 kids.
And so what do you grow in terms of vegetation?
Oh my goodness.
Do you sell any of the plants that you grow?
We don't. We really don't. Mint, Rainey's herb garden, mint, lavender, oregano, sage, there's that stuff. But we really don't. Rand has a garden out here that tomatoes and beans and peppers and peas and lettuce and, spinach, all that stuff that our youngest tends to out here. But no, we really don't. Produce-wise, we don't sell anything. We really don't. We give it away, or people come gather it themselves a lot of times. Yarrow, all our natural occurring herbs and medicines on the hillside. Elderberry, black walnuts is another one from the homesteaders. So the only thing that we grow that we sell is our old black walnut trees, when they get about 75-80% dead in the top, Liam and I take them out and then we mill them, and then we build furniture and things of that nature out of. We can build cremation urns out of them and stuff. Liam and I do a little woodworking on the side. So that's really the only thing that we export out of here that would be in the flora department.
Okay. Well, that's it for our interview. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for making it through to the end. If you like what we're doing and would like to help us grow, please tell your friends. Thank you, and blessings to you and those you love.